Welcome, football fans, far and wide, to another edition of IDP Plus Bets, more specifically the NFL Offensive Props. I am your host, the Degen Docs, and this is episode number 2 in our NFL division previews. We are looking at the 4 best bets in each NFL division, and today we are talking about none other than the NFC North. That is right. We are heading up north to that frozen tundra to talk about a very competitive division, a division where you have 4 teams that could not only be vying for the division title, but, 4 serious playoff contenders. I think they got enough talent on their rosters. So it does make for quite an interesting and dynamic division there. So we are going to walk through each of my 4 best bets for this division. And without further ado, let's kick this episode off with an absolute banger. Look, I know the first episode, we were warming you up, getting you some minus 110s, throwing these out there. But time to hunt for some value, and sometimes that means going after a bit of a long shot. So I'm looking at none other than the sun god himself, Mr. Amon-Ra St. Brown, to lead the NFL in receiving yards at plus 1,100. That is right. Give me Amon-Ra at 11-1 to lead the NFL in receiving yards. So I know that when they put out this market, this is one where there's a bajillion guys listed and it seems so wide open and there could be this dark shot, whatever. But realistically, there is a select few players that can get the volume and what is needed to get to this number on a consistent basis. So, talking about what are some of these factors are, the first one is that volume and opportunity, right? You have to be on an offense where you are the primary option. You are the number one wide receiver in the passing game, right? The number one option in the passing game. So Amon-Ra St. Brown perfectly fits that situation. You have a place where, yes, you have some good running backs in Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. You also have a good tight end in Sam Laporta. But in that wide receiver room, looking at some guys like Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond, there's no one really going to be competing with Amon-Ra St. Brown for that number one receiver slot. Like, he is the clear alpha dog. He's the clear number one passing threat. And I know they like to run the ball, but they like to throw it plenty, especially in that play action game. You also want to have a competent quarterback, right? Jared Goff, he's no stranger to putting up massive passing numbers. 4 out of the last 6 seasons, he's gone for over 4,400 passing yards. Obviously, you need a quarterback that's going to be able to get it to you to get the numbers up there. Goff also plays behind one of the best offensive lines in football. So he's going to get the time where it's needed to kind of push the ball downfield to Amon-Ra St. Brown, allow him to rack up these yards. They also play in a dome. It never hurts being able to control some weather there, especially in a division like the NFC North, where come October, December, November, December, going up to Lambeau and things like that, if you have to do that every week, including home, that's tough for the passing game. Playing in the dome, they can kind of avoid some of those situations definitely at home, and they'll be able to make sure that they can always light it up with their electric offense. Really, for me too, he was 3rd in receiving yards last year. Like, I'm not asking for Amon-Ra St. Brown to do anything crazy or out of the normal here. He was 3rd in receiving yards and 2nd in receptions. So yeah, CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill had crazy years. Are they going to be able to replicate that? Who knows? I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, it is very much within the realm of possibilities. He takes a little bit of a step forward. Him and Goff continue to click, and maybe one of those guys, they take a step back as everyone's trying to key in on them. Another piece that I like is, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, like, that is exactly what you have to stop. The Cowboys don't have much of a running game. Tyreek Hill, Dolphins, they do have a little bit of more of a running game, but in general, like, they're the kind of primary targets. With Detroit, you got a lot to worry about. And especially with offensive line, like, a lot of teams, they have to stop the run first. So that play action really leads for some great opportunities for that passing offense, specifically Amon-Ra St. Brown. Give me him to lead the NFL at 11-1. I just think that price is way, way mispriced. You have a guy who has shown he can be a consistent level, high level player. 11-1, way too high for that market. All right. Next, we are heading over to Green Bay to talk about a new member there in the backfield, and Josh Jacobs coming over from the Las Vegas Raiders. Give me his under 950.5 receiving yards there. Taking it under on a running back, not too surprising. A very demanding position that, injury risk is a thing. You're taking hits on every play, every time you get the ball, right? My main reason that there's a couple reasons I'm fading Josh Jacobs here. The first is this is going to be a different team. We shook up the offensive line. We shook up the running back room, right? No more Aaron Jones. He's off to rival Minnesota Vikings. And, they got rid of Bakhtiari and a couple of his starters up on that offensive line. They're going to be starting a rookie, a seventh rounder at left tackle. You've got a situation for the first time in a little while where there is some unproven players on this offensive line for Green Bay. It's a situation where I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out, and it's not something I think is going to mesh right away, right? You talk about, especially offensive lines, chemistry is a huge thing. Guys being able to play together for consistency, understanding, the play calls, obviously, but the adjustments at the line of scrimmage, right? How are we making sure everybody as a unit knows how we're going to set up this blocking scheme? You lost 3 starters on the offensive line for last year. So that is something that first red flag for me. Other is this running back situation. I don't think it's going to be a situation where Josh Jacobs come in and he might be the lead guy, but I don't think he's going to be getting, 20 plus carries a game. I think that they have 2 competent backs behind him. Now, if we want to argue if A.J. Dillon is a competent running back, that's a fair argument. But the Green Bay Packers brought him back. They specifically brought him back, re-signed A.J. Dillon. They still like him. Matt LaFleur still talks highly about him and whatever. So, they obviously brought him back for a reason. It's not for him to sit on the bench. So I think they're going to use him there. They also spent a 3rd-round pick on rookie Marshawn Lloyd, who's an explosive option out of the backfield. He has a lot more explosiveness than both Jacobs and Dillon combined. So he adds a different dimension, a different threat to that offense. So I think they're going to want to get him on the field. So from a combination of, hey, you've got an unproven O-line that's, coming together, again, losing those 3 starters from last season. And then you've got a crowded running back room in not only Jacobs, but Marshawn Lloyd and A.J. Dillon. And let's be honest, Josh Jacobs is not the most efficient runner, right? He's not someone who typically is going to bust it for, 50, 80 yards a pop. He really is 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust. That's what he averaged last year. And he would need to have about 270 carries in order to get over this number. I don't see that happening. That's a lot of carries. I don't think he's going to be coming in and just automatically be this bell cow. I do think A.J. Dillon's going to get some carries. I think Marshawn Lloyd's going to get some carries. And I think they're going to struggle a bit in the running game. You have Jordan Love, and everyone wants to talk about, young quarterback, those 3 or 4 young wide receivers in Dubs, Christian Washington, Jaden Weed, Dontavius Wicks, if you want to throw Melton in there. So I think there's a chance where they become a pass-first offense because they struggle to run the ball, and they're just trying to feed the hot hand. And, it switches off from week to week, and no one is really kind of getting that 25-plus carries where Josh Jacobs would need to get over this number. So give me Josh Jacobs under 950.5 rushing yards this season. All right. We are halfway done, and you know what that means. Got to tell you about the sponsors. Pay a little bit of bills here. So first up, really exciting draft night out. If you are going to, or if you want to be going to the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio here this weekend, right? Recording this on the 6th of August. Is it the 6th? Yep, it is the 6th of August, Tuesday. So it is this weekend is the Fantasy Football Expo. So if you're out there, join the IDP Plus crew, and they're going to be drafting on Saturday, August 10th at the Brew Kettle next to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Drafting extravaganza, first ever IDP Plus IDP League where they're hosting, they're drafting live there. So be a part of history. I'm going to have that down in the description, the link to that. The other thing is our friends over at Trophy Smack. So it's the off season, right? We are 30 days out from NFL kickoff. What great time. Start getting up fantasy football, start having those drafts, and of course, start finding this value in this sports betting space. But Trophy Smack, they got you handled for draft season. They go ahead and get in the game, get ahead of the game right now with Trophy Smack's gorgeous draft boards. complete with player stickers, so deep you couldn't need them all. And for the first time and for the only time, pretty sure Trophy Smack's the only one that hooks us up like this, but they've got an IDP expansion pack. Look, if you're part of this network, part of this family, you probably love real football, right? You love offense, defense, special teams. We don't just deal for the sexy offensive players, right? We don't do half the side of the ball. No, we love the entire game of football, and that means defense, and that means IDP. So head on over to Trophy Smack. That link will be in the description as well. All right, folks, let's get back to it. The back half of the show, we're going through bets 3 and 4. And we are heading up to Minnesota to talk about their rookie quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. The bet here is J.J. McCarthy to be the week 1 starting quarterback at 4-1. Now, a bit of an interesting market, I know, but here's the situation. J.J. McCarthy was the Minnesota Vikings guy in this NFL draft. You don't believe me? They traded up into the top 10 to spend a top 10 draft pick on J.J. McCarthy at a range where nobody else really wanted him, right? I mean, the question coming into the draft was, is J.J. McCarthy going to go in the first round? Like, how far is he going to fall? Obviously, there was a run of quarterbacks. We had, what was the 5 or 6, obviously with the Penix and Bo Nix going that not everyone had on the board. But that was the question coming in. Is J.J. McCarthy worth a first-round pick? The Minnesota Vikings spent a top 10 pick, right? They traded up a spot to go get this guy. They clearly like what they see out of him. Now, he's also turned some head in training camp. He's making some nice throws on the run. He's showing command of the offense. He played in a very pro-style offense at Michigan. But here's my biggest point. Who is excited to see Sam Darnold rolled out there in week 1? What Minnesota Vikings fan is going to be jacked up that Sam Darnold is your week 1 starting quarterback? This is a guy who is now on his 4th team, and the last time he really played significant snaps, really had anything close to a full season, he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. Sam Darnold is better at seeing ghosts than playing quarterback in the NFL. I hate to say it, but that's just where we're at right now. He has consistently proven he is not an NFL starting quarterback. The fans are going to be clamoring for J.J. McCarthy. He's already making these throws in training camp as the preseason rolls on. I think he's going to look more impressive than Sam Darnold. I think it's going to be very hard for Minnesota to say, hey, we took a top 10 draft pick. The kid looks good in training camp, but we're going to roll out Sam Darnold. Now, if you had an established quarterback, this is a different conversation. We have the kid sit. But again, they spent the draft capital on J.J. McCarthy. They clearly think he is the guy for their future. Why are we waiting for the likes of Sam Darnold to go out there? You have 2 dynamic wide receivers in Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. I think they roll the rookie out there. Give me McCarthy to start week 1 at plus 400. All right, folks, last bet on the board, and I'm heading over to Chicago to talk about the Bears. All right, the Bears. So, new addition as well. I seem to be picking on these new additions for these teams here, and it's DeAndre Swift. Give me the under 5.5 rushing touchdowns there with Swift. This is a situation where, look, DeAndre Swift, I don't know what is going on with him, but these past 3 seasons, he has gotten exactly 5 rushing touchdowns each year. So in other words, we could say that DeAndre Swift has gone under this number in 3 out of the past 3 years, right? So like that trend there. Now, really more importantly for me is the situation he walks into, okay? So Chicago Bears relied heavily on a running back committee last year. Now we can throw Justin Fields into that mix or whatever, but so much so that not, whether it was injury or opportunity, no one dominated that backfield as far as from the running back perspective, right? There was no player that scored more than 4 rushing touchdowns, including Justin Fields, all of last season. You've got Roschon Johnson, Khalil Herbert, and DeAndre Swift. Really, I think they're all capable running backs. I don't think any of them is massive tiers above the other. Roschon Johnson is a young guy who showed a lot of promise out of the University of Texas. I still think that obviously they spent the draft capital to draft him last year. Khalil Herbert was he's a pretty good running back, right? He's shown some flashes there. So I don't think this is a situation where DeAndre Swift comes in and dominates the target load or dominates the carries, right? I think this is one where it's not going to be a one-man show. It's going to be a true running back committee. And don't forget, Caleb Williams, their number one draft pick, they went out and got Rome Odunze, right? They brought in Keenan Allen. They're trying to set him up for success, make sure he can go through the air. He also likes to use his legs. So who's to say he's not going to take away a couple of those touchdowns at the goal line as well? So give me the under on DeAndre Swift, under 5.5 rush touchdowns this season at -120. Again, hard to accomplish this with a running back committee and a quarterback who likes to run. All right, folks. We got through all 4 bets. These are my 4 best bets for the NFC North. Quickly, I'm going to go through them as a bit of a recap here. So we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown to lead the NFL in receiving at 11-1. Josh Jacobs under 950.5 rush yards at -135. JJ McCarthy to be your week 1 starter at +400. And then DeAndre Swift under 5.5 rushing touchdowns at -120. So we got a little spicier with this episode, folks. Throw in an 11-1, a 4-1. Obviously, hey, it's the offseason. It's time to live a little. But no, this is a great time to go ahead and get value from the sportsbooks, especially as we start getting up into preseason. Obviously, these numbers are going to change. So I encourage you, hey, if you agree with something, if you want to tail something, you should probably bet it now. These numbers are likely to change. I know McCarthy's number has changed recently. Even Amon-Ra St. Brown, when I was giving it out earlier in the offseason, it was 12-1. Now it's 11-1. So these numbers do change, especially for these markets where as we get closer to the season, people are starting to throw more bets and things like that. But, hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, this is a new series. This is episode 2 of the series. I did the NFC South. This is the NFC North, so make sure you check that out. NFC West, NFC East, I expect those to be out within the week, and then we'll start rolling into the AFC. They're all going to be out before the season. Hey, if you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. As you guys can see, new channel here, so we're trying to do everything we can. Send feedback. You want to see something, you like something, you don't like something, give us a comment. Always love feedback. But other than that, folks, 30 days out from NFL kickoff. We are almost there. So cheers to you. Appreciate y'all coming out and listening. And other than that, the doc is out of here.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.